Hello and welcome to Rolling in the Mills, the film show where I discuss films. The film today is a strange one, a very obscure one. Normally I like to go a little bit obscure, but not super down the rabbit hole. However, I felt completely obliged to talk about this film. The film being Fehérlófia, a 1981 animated Hungarian film by Marcel Jankovic. And I actually can't exactly remember how I came across this film, but I think it might have just been the poster looked neat, so I added it to my watch list. And I was just going through my watch list one day, I have, several hundred films on there. And I saw the poster and I went, wow, I don't really remember that. I checked it out again and went, okay, this is like an 80-minute film. And I went, okay, I'm in the mood for a short film. Interesting, Hungarian animated. This is weird. It sounded like it was some sort of like mythological tale. And it's on YouTube as well, like anyone can watch this. And I watched it and it's fucking nuts. Completely nuts. And I don't know how more people haven't heard of this film. Generally on YouTube, you'll see like free films that are just kind of on YouTube that slip past the radar, have, sometimes like tens of thousands of views. And this had a couple of thousand, but there were pretty much no ratings on IMDb, no poster, 300 and something people had seen it on Letterboxd, and I was like, what? Essentially this film is like a psychonaut's wet dream. It's essentially the absolute perfect tripping film. That would be mainly because it's completely insane in its visuals. Like, it is so psychedelic and experimental and crazy and colorful, but at the same time, it's actually really, really well animated in parts. Actually, for most of the film, it's really, really well animated. Parts of it have like this beautiful, artistic, amazing flow to them in terms of objects molding into other objects, and as well as that, it's actually just shot really, really nicely with this incredibly dense, colorful color palette, just crazy shit, which I absolutely love. And then other parts of it look really Soviet, I think is the word I'd use, like brutalist, and they're very mechanical and sharp and blocky, and really that's all I can kind of describe the style as. Everything's very angular and at the same time like rough and kind of carved and curved and a bit warped. It just looks amazing. And I've never seen an animation style similar to that. The main thing I was thinking of during the film was like a mixture between the Beatles' Yellow Submarine, which is why I have that, and Pink Floyd's The Wall. And some parts of the film even look like they kind of influenced The Wall, or look very, very similar to it, considering that Pink Floyd's The Wall came out a year after this. But I mean, I can't confirm any of that, obviously. It just looked like parts of it were very, very similar, especially like some character designs. This is one female character who looks very similar to the mother character with the vagina lips in the song The Trial in The Wall. I'm actually not going to go into spoilers in this review, and I'm going to keep this relatively brief because you kind of have to go into the film with very, very little expectations except the knowledge of kind of what it's going to be like in terms of the vibe of the film and in terms of what some of the visuals are going to be like. Overall, the basic premise of the film is a very standard like mythological plot, and that's kind of like the main downside to the film, is it's very, very basic, and it comes across almost like a children's film. And I actually initially kind of thought, I was like, oh, I'm watching a kid's film because it's very colorful and very neon, but it just happens to be totally fucking crazy and psychedelic, and I'm like, okay, whatever, that just might be a cultural thing or something. But then there are parts where people just pull out the tits, and there's some very, very obvious sexual innuendos with a person's sword being their dick. This female character is like stroking it, and this other character has a giant stone nutsack, and I'm fine with that, but it just kind of seemed weird that the plot kind of feels like it fits into a kid's film because it's so simplistic and so basic. It kind of follows that mythological thing of everything must come in threes, this character tries this and fails, this character tries this and fails. Third time's the charm, third time works, and it kind of does that a bit. It gets a bit methodical, but overall it doesn't feel like too much of a detriment considering how absolutely amazing the visuals are. Like, they really, really carry the film. Plus, there's some really interesting musical choices. During one of the sequences with one of the dragons that this character is fighting, there's this really cool, like, industrial soundtrack that's like a smacking hammer on anvil, and there's this weird Hungarian yelling, and I'm just like, oh my god, what the fuck? And it's just really great aesthetically. I was also getting some really strong Holy Mountain vibes. There's even a shot that looks like it was actually copied straight from the Holy Mountain, so I'm not sure if there was a very direct influence there. Holy Mountain came out in 1977, so I guess it's pretty close to the period the film would have been made in, so that's not implausible. Overall, I pretty much recommend this as the perfect film to trip on psychedelics to. It's really basic, really easy, very visually focused. There's nothing weird or freaky in it. Maybe like a couple of sections that are like briefly a bit dodgy, but I mean besides that, it's totally normal, and I can really see it being a kind of hidden gem in that kind of niche or that regard. You know, the most basic film that everyone kind of goes to is Baraka or Samsara. Samsara minus the clay person scene. Don't watch Samsara if you're tripping and you haven't cut out the clay person scene, because you might not have a very fun time with that. Overall, I'm giving this film a heart. It's a little bit too difficult to rate in terms of a general story, because the story is essentially just like taken from Hungarian folklore, you know, and I can't really say that that's kind of shit. It's like trying to mark down, you know, the Bible on stories, or like the Odyssey or something, you know. It doesn't really work because it's a mythological thing. As a film, it functions in terms of the story, and it's fine. I just feel like it's a little lacking in how simplistic the story is. Besides that, aesthetically, visually, beautiful, and that's really what you're going to be watching it for, and it's definitely worth watching it for. Also, it doesn't happen to drag on for, you know, hours and hours. It's really, really quick, like 80 minutes, 79 minutes or something. Really simple story. Fantastic film. Great hidden gem. I hope more people see this because it's fucking amazing. And it's crazy no one's seen this. But yeah, that's about it. If you want to see my other reviews, you can check them down there. And hopefully you find more good films to watch, because I just want you to watch good films. Just watch good films. Just get good taste. Au revoir.